Hello everyone and welcome to StudyIQ. In this session, we will discuss about the devaluation of rupee. So far, we have completed almost 25 plus classes. And if you find any difficulty in finding them on the YouTube, you can go to my Facebook page. You will find all the previous videos. So let us start. Devaluation of rupee. So what is meant by devaluation of rupee, or what is devaluation? Devaluation is a process by which the central bank of an economy reduces the value of a particular currency in respective of other currencies. So under devaluation, a particular currency loses value, which means the value decreases in comparison to other currencies in the forex market. So this is in comparison to other currencies in the forex market. Two things you should note here is, first of all, this is a monetary policy. This is a monetary policy, which means that monetary policy is taken by the central bank of an economy. Monetary policy is adopted by the central bank. So in case of India, RBI is responsible for devaluation of rupee. Okay. And secondly, this is a conscious effort made by the central bank of an economy, which means that this is not automatic, but this is consciously done. What does this mean? Automatically means demand and supply, or the market will be responsible for the change in value, decrease or increase in the value of a particular currency. So how does this market do? When there is less demand for a currency, the value of the currency decreases. And this is an automatic process. This is known as depreciation of currency. So when this is done automatically by the market with the help of demand and supply forces, we call it as depreciation. And when there is increase in demand of a particular currency, this will lead to increase in the value of that particular currency, and this is known as appreciation. So you must remember here that appreciation and depreciation are automatic processes, which means that the central bank will not do it consciously. This is done automatically by the market forces. Which are the market forces? Demand and the supply. So when demand increases for a particular currency, the value will obviously increase. So when demand is more, the value is also more. So this will lead to appreciation or increase in the value of the currency. And lesser demand for a currency will reduce the value of the currency, and this will lead to depreciation of the currency. So both depreciation and appreciation are automatic processes. And here we are learning about devaluation. So as we said, devaluation is a conscious effort made by the central bank of an economy. So in case of India, Reserve Bank of India makes conscious effort to decrease the value of currency. So here the value of currency is decreased, and this is a conscious effort from the side of the Reserve Bank of India. On the other hand, we also have revaluation. What is revaluation? This is just opposite of devaluation. Means the Reserve Bank of India or the central bank of an economy consciously tries to increase the value of the currency. So this is revaluation, and our topic for discussion today is devaluation. Hope this is clear. So why does the Reserve Bank or the central bank would devaluate a currency or decrease the value? All these things we will discuss later in this session itself. Now let us see what are the causes of devaluation. One important reason is lack of competitiveness or inflation. See, lack of competitiveness means that the prices are high or the commodities have higher prices in the market. So it means the competitiveness is less, because when prices are high, it means that lack of competitiveness is in the market. So this will lead to inflation. How? Increase in prices. So inflation is the persistent rise in the prices of commodities. So this will lead to inflation in the economy. We have already discussed about inflation, various types, causes of inflation, etc. in some other module. So if you have no clarity about inflation, please go back to my previous videos on inflation, which is available in my Facebook page. So please go back and watch that video. You will get more clarity on this topic. Another reason is the increasing current account deficit. So increase in current account deficit. What is meant by current account deficit? It means that the imports are more than the exports. So whatever is coming into the country is more than what is going out of the country. So imports is more than the export. This will lead to current account deficit. So a widening current account deficit is also a cause for devaluation of currency. Again, the increasing prices of oil. So we all know that India is a net importer of oil. So we are dependent on imports for our oil or fuel requirement. So with the increasing price of oil, again the currency will lose its value. Now let us see an important term, that is devaluation spiral. This is a simple concept. It is very easy to understand. The concept says that devaluation is like a spiral, which means it never ends. And let us see how it happens. We have already discussed that inflation is one reason for devaluation. So inflation will lead to devaluation. Again, when there is devaluation of the currency, the value of the currency decreases, and this will lead to further increase in prices of the commodities, and this is again known as inflation. So again, devaluation will cause inflation in the economy. So high inflation in the economy causes devaluation. When there is more demand in the economy, we have already said there are two types of inflation. One is demand pull inflation, the other one is cost push inflation. So see, when there is demand pull inflation, it means that aggregate demand in the economy is high. So demand is more than the supply. So what happens? The prices increases. So there will be devaluation in the economy. So again, during devaluation, what happens? The prices of commodities increases. So this will increase the cost of production of the commodities. So increase in cost of production will lead to cost push inflation. So this cycle continues. This is known as the devaluation spiral. Now let us see what are the impact of devaluation in the economy. First of all, it will give a inflationary tendency in the economy. Inflation. Let's see how. During devaluation, what happens with exports and imports? Exports, imports. Let us see. Before going into that, let us see what really happens during devaluation. Suppose the value of currency was 60 rupees for $1. So $1 equal to 60 rupees. And during devaluation, what happened? The central bank of the economy reduced the value of currency, which means that now it is 65 rupees for $1. What does this mean? This means that earlier with 60 rupees you were able to purchase $1. But now there is revaluation, which means the value of Indian rupee has come down. So now you need to pay 65 rupees in order to buy $1. And now see how does this affect the exports and the imports. Exports means you are sending to another country. And when the value of rupee is less, what will happen? If suppose you are exporting $100 commodities for $100. So earlier, before the devaluation, the value of the currency was 60 rupees. See, from this example, before revaluation, the value was 60 rupees. So here you are exporting $100 commodity. So before the devaluation, 60 into 100 will give you 6,000. So your income was 6,000 rupees. And after devaluation, what has happened? The value of Indian rupee has come down. And we will see that now it is 65 rupees. So you will get 65 into 100. Which means you are earning 6,500. Coming to the imports. Suppose the same $100 you are importing. $100 commodity. So before devaluation, $1 was 60. So 60 into 100. 6,000. You need to pay 6,000. Now it is 65 rupees for $1. So 65 into 100 equal to 6,500. See, coming to the exports, you will see that during devaluation, the exporters gain or the income of the exporters is high. See, in this example, earlier it was 6,000 rupees. Now it is 6,500. You are getting it. So exporters are earning this money. And coming to the imports, you will see that earlier you had to pay only 6,000 rupees. Now you have to pay 6,500 rupees. So it means the imports have become more expensive. And We have already said that India is highly dependent on our oil and fuel requirements for imports. So, during inflation, what happens? The price of imports goes up, or you have to pay more for your imports. This will lead to increase in the cost of production of commodities. So, this will lead to increase in cost of production, and you have already learned in your inflation module that increase in cost of production will lead to cost push inflation in the economy. So, this will lead to cost push inflation in the economy. Secondly, the competitiveness of the exporters also will come down. How? We have already seen that during devaluation, the exporters tend to gain more money. So what happens? In order to gain short-term returns, they will compromise on quality or infrastructure, investments, etc. Now they know that the value of the Indian rupee is less. So they are going to gain from exporting. So in order to increase their quantity of the export, what they will do is they will compromise on the quality, or they will compromise in the investment or infrastructure. So this will lead to lessening of the competitiveness of the exporters. But this is in the long run. You must understand here that in the short run, it is definitely going to benefit the exporters. So there is obviously a short run benefit or short term benefit. But in the long run, they are going to lose in terms of competitiveness. Again, we have seen that exports will increase because there is more income for the exporters. So, exporters will try to increase their exports. So, in the economy or in the domestic market, what will be the effect of that? Exports are increased. So, in the domestic economy, aggregate demand will be more than the aggregate supply because there is a shortage. Why is this shortage? Because exports are more. Because of increasing exports, in the economy, there will be shortage of commodities. And when aggregate demand is more than the aggregate supply, we have seen there will be demand pull inflation in the economy. So, the supply is not enough to meet the domestic requirements, and this will lead to demand pull inflation, which means the prices of commodities in the market will increase. Another impact of devaluation is that this will result in the loss of confidence in the international as well as domestic investors. So, in case of investors, they will lose the confidence in the economy. Why? Because the value of the currency is changing. So, there is no stability of the currency. So, there is no stability for the currency. So, with devaluation, the value of the currency is coming down. So, the currency is not stable. Therefore, the economy also will not be much stable. So, this will harm the confidence of the investors, whether it be domestic investors or international investors. So, as a result, what will happen? Investment in the economy will come down. This will lead to lesser growth and development in the economy. So, with lesser investment, the productivity or the output will come down. This will definitely affect the GDP of the country. Also, investments can be in the form of infrastructure and technology as well. This will affect the development of the country as well. Another impact is that it will reduce the purchasing power. We said that there will be inflationary trend in the economy. So, what happens during inflation? Inflation is the persistent rise in the prices of commodities. So, prices of commodities will go up. This means that the purchasing power of the households comes down. Let us take an example. Earlier, the price of 1 kg apple was 100 rupees. A person has 1000 rupees income. This is just an assumption. So, he used to purchase 10 kilogram of apple. So, his purchasing power is 10 kilogram. But now there is inflation in the economy. The prices has gone up. Inflation means increase in prices. So, now the price of apple is 125 rupees per kg. And his income is the same, 1000 rupees. So now, will he be able to buy the previous 10 kilograms of apple? No, he will not be. So now he will be able to buy only 8 kilograms of apple. 8 kilograms of apple. This means the purchasing power of that household has come down. So what does this infer? When the purchasing power of a person comes down, this will affect the standard of living of that person. Standard of living also comes down. So this will have a negative impact on the standard of living of that individual. Now let's see how it affects the economic growth. In the short run, this will boost the domestic demand. Therefore, this will result in short-term economic growth. We have seen in case of exporters, they are earning more, means the economy has more income. But what happens? This is only for the short term. In the long run, this is not effective. So we have already seen that devaluation is done consciously by the central bank of an economy. In case of India, it is the RBI. Now let us see what can be the reasons RBI would reduce the value of the Indian currency, or why RBI would adopt devaluation. One reason can be to curb the excess imports in the economy. Excess imports can be curbed. So we have seen during devaluation, imports become expensive and exporters gain. So this will result in increase in the prices of imports. So sometimes the RBI wants to decrease the rate of imports into the economy. For example, gold. So when there is more imports into the economy, what will happen? So imports more than exports will result in current account deficit and widening of current account deficit. The more the imports compared to the exports, the current account deficit will also widen. So in order to avoid this, sometimes the RBI will adopt devaluation. And in case of gold, this is not a productive asset. So there is no economic growth or development associated with the purchase of gold. This will only increase or widen the current account deficit. Sometimes if the RBI feels that the import of gold into the economy is harming the economy or increasing the current account deficit of the country, it will devaluate the currency. Secondly, the RBI can devaluate the currency if the RBI feels that Indian goods and services needs a competitive edge in the world market or global economy. So in order to give a competitive edge. How is this possible? We have seen that during devaluation, export become cheaper and exporters gain. So this can also be one reason. For example, tourism or export of certain commodities. In case of tourism, RBI can also adopt devaluation if it feels that there is a short-term stabilization required in the economy. So this can be used as a short-term stabilization method by the central bank. Now let us see the case of China. China is one country that regularly or frequently devaluates its currency. Why this is done? This is done because the exports will become cheaper, or the exporters in Chinese economy will gain more. So the exports from China will increase and they can increase the forex reserves also. So devaluation is one incentive given by the Chinese government to the exporters of Chinese economy. So which means that now the exporters will be motivated to export more into other economies, and this will boost the exports of the country, and this will help them in forex reserves or gaining forex. So we have seen that devaluation is a measure to decrease the value of currency in order to stabilize the economy for various reasons. Stabilize the economy, and we have also seen that this is a short-term measure. So let us see what can be done in the long term to stabilize the economy. So in the long term, what are the measures or solutions to stabilize the economy? One solution is capital inflows, which means that more capital should come into the economy from other countries in the form of FDI and FII, preferably FDI. Why? Because FII is volatile. Anytime they can take them back, because investing in FII means investing in the shares and equities of Indian companies, and the investors can take this capital back to their own economy anytime. So this is not a very reliable source of foreign capital, but FDI means investment in the infrastructure. So this cannot be taken back very easily. So this is more appropriate. Another solution could be increasing the exports. So increasing exports will result in more forex of the country. So when a country has more forex reserves, the currency of the country will also be, the value of the currency of that particular country will also increase. The country's currency will have more stability. Or otherwise we can say that the demand of the currency is high, which means that when demand is high, the value also will be high. So more exports more will be the forex reserves of that country, which means the demand of the currency will also be high, and this will lead to increase in the value of currency. So here you can remember the Chinese example. So China has increased its exports in order to maintain more in the forex reserves and to stabilize their currency. Another solution is reduce the imports of the country. Imports should be reduced, especially in those commodities which do not help in growth or development. For example, gold. So we have seen that gold will not help in any growth or development of the economy. It will only add on to the current account deficit. So such imports should be reduced. The government should make measures to reduce the import of such commodities. Another solution is to bring in supply side policies to increase the competitiveness. Another solution could be to reduce the dependency on imports for oil. This is a long-term measure. You cannot attain, Indian economy cannot attain this in a short run. This is possible only in the long run. For this, what can be done? Renewable sources of energy or domestic sources of energy should be developed. So this will require long-term measures. This cannot be attained in the short run. Another solution is to implement monetary policies to tackle inflation and reduce the domestic demand. Here you must understand two things: reducing inflation and reducing domestic demand. First, inflation. So we have already learned in the inflation module that a moderate level of inflation is necessary for growth and development of an economy. So inflation can be reduced but not below a certain level. So this must be taken care of. And second thing, reduce the domestic demand. So reducing the domestic demand can be a short-term measure but not in the long term. Why? Because when the demand in the economy decreases, what will happen? This will lead to decrease in supply also. We have seen this in microeconomics. To maintain the equilibrium, when demand decreases, supply also decreases. Decrease in supply means that production or output has decreased. So when the output decreases, what will happen? This will reduce the GDP of the country. So one is GDP will come down. And secondly, what happens? When output or production reduces, employment also goes down, or the rate of employment growth goes down, or it will create unemployment. Now there is lesser output. So the firm does not need as much as employees they required before. So they will cut down on the number of employees. So there will be the issue of unemployment also. So this has multiple effects. One is GDP of the country will decrease, which means the growth of the country has come down. Secondly, employment rate will come down, or it will lead to unemployment in the economy. So reducing the domestic demand is only a short-term measure. In the long term, you cannot adopt it. Next is the financial control measures. Example of a financial control measure is reducing the limit of gold imports. So this is all about devaluation of currency. But if this module has to be very clear, you must have a clear idea about inflation. Also, you should also know what is demand, what is supply, and also what is market equilibrium. So if you know all these terms, there will be a better understanding. You can find my videos on inflation as well as microeconomics, and if it is difficult for you to find those videos on the YouTube, you can go to my Facebook page. You will find all the videos there. Also, after going through this video, please try to answer this question I am giving you right now. You can write down the answers and inbox it to me in my Facebook page. I'll correct them and get back to you.